Hello everyone, welcome to the Indian Sun. My name is Sanjeev. Today we are going to discuss the topic foreign exchange reserves, will they save rupee? Foreign exchange reserve topic is not a new one. If we jump back to the 1991, before liberalization, India had only 15 days worth of foreign exchange reserves. In 2021, India had $642 billion of in foreign exchange reserves, which are enough for 15 months. It gradually decreased now, and India now has $572 billion in forex reserves, which are enough for 10 months. But why is this decline happening? Should we be concerned about it? To deep dive into this topic of what are forex reserves and how will it save Indian rupee, we have Janani Rangan with us. To give a brief introduction about Janani, she completed her bachelor's in economics from Stella Maris College, master's in economics from Loyola College, and currently pursuing her Ph.D. in economics from Indian Institute of Management, Ahmedabad, which is a top business school in India. So, Janani, thank you so much for accepting our invite.
Hi, Sanjeev. Thank you for having me here.
Before going into the topic, can you tell us what are foreign reserves, foreign exchange reserves?
So, foreign exchange reserves, in a sense, are assets that the country's monetary authority or any authority that is responsible for the conduct of reserve management usually has, and these are denominated in another country's currency. So, for instance, these are external assets. Let's say the RBI would have assets in dollar denomination. So these can be used to sort of correct for external imbalances, and also promote liquidity within the economy. And also sometimes the monetary authority may have to intervene in the exchange market, to sort of ensure that the currency is not appreciating excessively or depreciating excessively, and they use foreign exchange reserves to do so. So broadly, this is the idea of what foreign exchange reserves are.
Got it. And what is rupee appreciation or rupee depreciation?
Right. So when you look at a currency's value with respect to another, a reference currency's value, and if that value goes down, is called currency depreciation. For instance, I'll give you the example of INR to USD. So let's say INR is, let's say 1 USD is equal to rupees 70, and this goes up to rupees 80. This is depreciation of the Indian currency. You need more of the Indian currency to buy $1 worth of goods. So this, in a sense, is depreciation. On the other hand, let's say you have rupees 70 as the current rate, like I stated before, and this goes down to rupees 60. It means that you need lesser amount of Indian rupees to buy 1 USD. So this currency appreciation and depreciation is essential, and these are important concepts because they also have macroeconomic implications. So, for instance, they can influence the inflationary levels in the country, and like we're going to talk about, they also influence how foreign investors tend to behave. So, which is precisely why it has been given so much importance.
Okay, got it. And now, linking these two topics, how are foreign exchange reserves linked to rupee appreciation or depreciation?
So I'll give you a very simple example. Let's say there are two countries, country A and country B. So now country A's, let's say country A has a very high supply of its currency in the exchange market, and countries B's supply is relatively lower, and the demand for country B's exchange currency is higher. It means that countries B's currency is going to be valued highly. So now country B has two options. Its currency is valued highly in the exchange market. So which means that this is an appreciation. So while this is good on one hand, the problem with this is that the exports are now expensive. So the competitiveness of country B's exports go down. So to catch up on this and to make the exports more competitive, country B intervenes in the exchange market. So what it does is it sells more of its currency and it buys more of the other country's currency. Now, in case of depreciation, like if let's say there's an exchange depreciation, the country can use its foreign exchange reserve. Let's say now India has USD. It can sell USD to increase the supply of USD and in turn increase the demand for INR. So this demand supply stabilization is what ensures that the currency doesn't appreciate very highly or depreciate very highly.
Got it. And we have seen like a lot of economic crisis happening in India, all over the world also, like, 2007-8 Lehman Brothers crisis and other things. And it is traditionally said like, these forex reserves are acting as a cushion to Indian economy. So can you please elaborate more on this?
So, like I had stated before, one major role that forex reserves play is in terms of currency, that is, intervention in the forex market and to stabilize currency. The next is it also provides some amount of liquidity. So, for instance, if you have to support your imports, you can use your forex to do so. If, let's say, the currency has depreciated, the domestic currency has depreciated highly, using forex to support imports would help account for this sort of imbalance that is there. And lastly, there are quite a few reasons, but another direct reason is also confidence of foreign institutional investors. Now, a very basic idea is if a country has a high amount of foreign exchange reserves, it means that it has the ability to handle a crisis. It may not be immune to the crisis, but let's say it is well, it has a cushion to face the repercussions of the crisis. Now, this is very important for the behavior of investors. This is how investors will act. Now, if the foreign exchange reserves are not very high, you will have capital outflows. Investors will not find our economy very attractive because there is a lot of uncertainty. They're not sure if we can handle that kind of crisis. So, which is why foreign exchange reserves are very essential.
Got it. Got it. And what is footloose capital or butterfly capital? We are hearing these terms
Footloose
a lot in
capital
this in
is,
the recent years.
yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Footloose capital largely, like I said, is a very temporary flow of capital. So let's say you have some FIIs
Mhm.
are in general short-term investors, but you can also have such investment which may just come for like very brief period of time and or may also get out of the country based on how the economy
Mhm.
is performing. So this is
Mhm.
footloose capital
Mhm.
because it's not very sustainable, which is why sometimes having a considerable amount of foreign direct investment percentage
Yeah.
as part of our country's
Yeah.
capital, as part of our country's foreign flows would also help.
Yeah. Okay. And how will this affect the Indian rupee, either butterfly capital or footloose capital?
So any form of capital
Yeah.
outflow is obviously a
Mhm.
consequence of the economy's underperformance. So let's say there is some amount of depreciation, currency depreciation. So that is one link that one can provide. If there's currency
Yeah.
depreciation, people you're bound to have inflationary tendencies in the economy. So once there is a high level of inflation in the economy, it means that eventually the economy is going to sort of increase interest rates. So while this can be attractive on one front, this foreseeing of increase in interest rate can bring in capital. The
Mhm.
uncertainty about the performance of the economy can also lead to capital outflows. So there are two-way effects. I think the there is no direct impact. One cannot very conclusively state that this is the direct relationship. There are many ways in which foreign exchange reserves or and institutional investors and currency all impact each other. There are many flows to how this works.
Okay. Got it. And in this entire thing, like compared to Sri Lanka, India is not an export-driven economy or something like. Now,
Right.
compared to this one, like when we compare the economy of India and Sri Lanka, so is there any reason we need to be worried about the Indian economy?
See, to be very honest, I think the Indian economy has been performing well relative to other economies, considering the pandemic and the global
Correct.
economic shock that has come about.
Okay.
We see how this
Mhm.
has affected economies worldwide, and it's caused a series of reactions across the world, with global flows
Mhm.
also being affected. So while the Sri Lankan economy was severely impacted, I think the Indian
Yeah.
economy has a relatively strong stance. While yes,
Okay.
the economy has definitely taken a hit because of the pandemic, but I
Yeah.
don't see a need for worry, and this is what growth projections also suggest relative to other economies.
Got it. And can we have any, idea about the Russian-Ukraine war on the foreign exchange reserves for India?
Definitely.
Like,
I
what
mean,
is the impact of that on India?
so the Russia-Ukraine war, like is just another source of economic uncertainty and also crisis. So, for instance, this has in fact affected the oil bills of countries across the world.
Yeah.
And while there is no evidence about how this is about whether this has impacted India very
Mm.
significantly, India has
Mm.
definitely taken the brunt of this economic uncertainty. So,
Yeah.
I mean, in fact, India's geopolitical stance, or there are many other factors that come into how investors tend to react. But I do not think
Yeah.
that this is a primary reason for, let's say, a currency depreciation. It is definitely one of the reasons. But for India, it
Correct.
is the economy's underlying performance is what matters most.
Got it. And we just go back to the 1991 period, like liberalization, post-liberalization, and pre-liberalization period. So, how has this forex reserves have built, and why do you think like this is one of the important steps during the liberalization era, maintaining the forex reserves?
Right. So, like you had stated in the beginning of the interview, this was
Yes.
during the reason for liberalization was because of the level of foreign exchange reserves that we'd had, and also the need
Yeah.
for this. So, the
Yeah.
liberalization reforms opened up the economy. So, you had
Yeah.
more trade, and you had more investment, foreign investment coming into our economy. So before
Yeah.
this, we were fairly I wouldn't say protectionist, but we were fairly inward looking before the
Oh.
liberalization reforms and before
Mm.
globalization. But now that you're
Yes.
part of, let's say, you have more investment that's coming in, is how the
Mm.
foreign exchange reserves also went up. So when you see from 2000 to 2008, a lot of the Asian economies' investment, in fact, went up. And talking about Asian
Correct.
economies, even the Asian crisis was one of the reasons. Looking at the Asian crisis as an
Correct.
example, economies saw that as an example and also started accumulating foreign exchange reserves, and
Yes.
they saw the need for how this was important as a cushion for liquidity.
Got it. And coming to the, we can see a lot of foreign exchange reserves are coming down, and India has a major challenge of paying the short-term debts also. So, how
Hmm.
do you think this paying the short-term debts and forex reserves are linked?
So I don't see where I don't see a need for worry. That is, your debt may not. The foreign exchange reserves have definitely come down. It is on the news. They
Yeah.
have decreased. But the component of foreign exchange reserves that have come down are foreign
Yeah.
currency assets, which again
Mm.
is a probable reaction to the intervention and also the outflow of capital. But you would anticipate this because there is going to be an
Mm.
increase in your current account deficit because we have to undertake more
Yeah.
programs to support growth. On the other
Yes.
hand, we
Yeah.
are going to see capital outflows, but I do not
Hmm.
see or I have not come across any alarming indicator which
Yeah.
suggests that you have to worry about external short term external debt at present.
Yes.
While we do have our commitments, I think we are fairly reasoned in terms of that.
Got it. And given the current scenario, like where our uh, foreign exchange reserves are going down or something, what do you think the measures either to stop the declination or to increase the foreign exchange reserves?
Right. So a few measures taken by the Reserve Bank of India fairly recently to increase capital
Yeah.
flows are in fact in terms of encouraging foreign deposits. So one measure was to in fact, so there was a cap in terms of how much interest rate you can provide to foreign depositors,
Uh,
and this was taken off till October. So this has been taken off
yes.
till October. And in fact,
Correct.
foreign deposits will also not form part of your CRR or SLR. So this is a very major
Yeah.
incentive, and it's going to incentivize financial institutions to promote more. So
Yeah.
the central bank is definitely taking measures, but the effect of this,
Mhm.
like any economic policy, will be seen eventually. You cannot see an immediate
Okay.
reaction. Economic policy will
Correct.
sort of, react with a certain lag.
Got it. And if you see carefully, like our foreign exchange reserves majorly it is built on the stock market investments. So whenever the stock market investments go out of India, come into India or something, definitely some kind of value added or value removal will be done. So how far I can say, like, my question is, like, to for what extent we can rely on this foreign exchange reserves, which is in turn relied again on the stock markets investments. Because a lot of retail investors also, if they want, they will like to remove the stock markets investments also. So
So
now
your foreign
building
exchange
or banking
reserves,
on it is a problem.
right? So foreign
Yeah.
exchange reserves are not solely depend on FIIs. So when you look at the
Okay.
foreign reserve exchange component, you have different
Mm.
components for this. We have SDRs, special drawing rights, you have gold, you have foreign currency assets, and you do have foreign institutional investments, which
Yes.
are primarily dependent on your stock market performance. Having said
Correct.
that, clearly having foreign exchange reserve as the sole means to tackle a
Yeah.
crisis is definitely not advisable, even by intergovernmental organizations such as IMF. While foreign
Yeah.
exchange management is critical for exchange rate stabilization, we do have other means. We have to use monetary and other monetary and fiscal policy measures to counter a
Correct.
certain economic crisis, of which
Correct.
foreign exchange reserve management is a key measure. But I wouldn't
Got it.
presume, while capital inflows and outflows do sort of depend on stock market behavior. This is not a very significant sign of worry because this largely deals with short term debt. You also have a lot of long term
Yes.
investment, which is also as
Yeah.
a question. But like you had suggested, it is very important to take measures to tackle this so that you don't lose
Got
out on the long term debt as well. Because a country's perception is also very important for what kind of
it. Mm.
investment it's attracting.
Correct. And we discussed about Chinese impact also. Sorry, really, Sri Lankan impact also on our economy. So, what is the impact of China now? Because China currently it is going a lot of underperforming its economy also. The real estate crisis also is coming there, and a lot of issues are happening because of the COVID lockdowns also. So, do we have any effect of China because being it's a neighboring country? Do we have any effect we can see on the forex reserves of India because of China?
I mean, on the economy of India, we will definitely see because China is a key trading partner. So any
Yeah.
impact on any of our trading partners will affect us in form of our imports and
Mm.
exports. So if
Got
let's say one of our trading partners does not import as much, it's definitely going to impact your current account deficit and thereby
it.
the
Yes.
channel foreign exchange reserves. But since all economies
Yeah.
have gone down, is why I think you have a cycle of reactions. I don't think
Yeah.
I don't think a significant sort of like impact on only Chinese economy on India may be very visible at present, or something that
Yeah.
I can really vouch for. But
Yeah.
I can only postulate the possible linkages. It's not something that I
Okay.
can really state upfront.
Yeah. Got it. And in India, we can see a lot of countries or states can be driven on remittances also. Remittance is a big part of Indian economy also these days.
Mhm.
So can you give us some link between the foreign exchange reserves and the remittance, and how remittance is a good or bad thing for foreign exchange reserves?
Remittance is definitely a good thing. So when you're talking about, let's say, if you're talking about remittances
Mm.
from in the form of deposits, this brings me
Yeah.
back to the link that I'd originally stated in terms of foreign exchange reserves, how foreign
Yeah.
deposits are also being encouraged now. So in a way,
Yeah.
remittances are definitely crucial and most or also encouraged. In fact, at present,
Yeah.
to sort of increase the amount of flows that we have into our economy, and is a very positive sign for the foreign exchange reserve, in my opinion.
Got it. And just like to give an idea about general idea to our viewers, like can you tell us like what is called rupees free fall? Like when rupee fall, what does the RBI does in terms of foreign exchange reserves?
The RBI is I'll give you a very brief overview of what the RBI does first. So, as the
Yeah.
monetary authority, the main objective of the RBI is to ensure price stability,
Yeah.
and to some
Yes.
extent, and to a large extent, also ensure macroeconomic
Yeah.
stability. Now, the
Yeah.
Central Bank of India follows the inflation targeting regime, the flexible inflation
Uh,
targeting regime, wherein we have
Correct.
a targeted band of 2 to 6% of inflation. So, to
Yeah.
ensure price stability, currency management
Yes.
is key. So, for us to
Correct.
ensure our inflation levels are within the bounds, that is your consumer price index,
Yes.
which is the headline inflation,
Yes.
it's important to
Yeah.
ensure the currency doesn't depreciate as much. Because when the currency
Correct.
depreciates, Exports are imports are more expensive, and this is going to
Yes.
reflect in your consumer price index, because there are some
Yes.
components of imports also. Your consumers are also consuming imported goods, and this is
Yes.
bound to increase inflation. So, as a measure,
Correct.
the RBI will, like the measures that I previously mentioned, that is to sort of handle currency, fluctuations. The other is, on the other hand, we also want to handle inflationary tendencies. So, when inflation
Yes.
goes up, the RBI tends to increase your interest rate to reduce the money supply in the economy. And when your
Yes.
inflation is down, the Reserve Bank of India wants to increase money supply in the economy, so you reduce interest rates.
Got it. This is a very clear thing. And finally, to conclude, one last question from my side is like, do we really need to be concerned now, besides having the massive forex reserves, and as we discussed now, India has built a strong reserves, and RBI is acting as a safeguard to all these foreign exchange reserves. Looking into the short-term debts or what are the crisis and even the recession, there is a prediction that recession is going to come. So, considering all these effects, should we really concerned about any dent happening to the Indian economy as a whole?
It is always great to be proactive, and I think which is what all
Okay.
policy organizations, including the RBI, is doing. While you see a
Yeah.
certain amount of depreciation or depletion of foreign exchange reserves, it is important to be
Yes.
proactive and take measures so that we don't reach the stage that you're talking about. So that is
Got
something
it.
that I would always recommend, and something that I'm also
Hmm.
seeing across the world. So we're also seeing the Fed,
Correct.
which is taking measures to tackle
Yes.
inflation. So any kind of growth indicator is very important, because that particular, the performance of the economy is reflected through that indicator, which in turn
Yeah.
will impact the level of foreign exchange reserves through the channels that I had mentioned earlier.
Got it. Okay. Thank you, Jenny. So we had a wonderful views on the foreign exchange reserves with you.
Thank you very much for having me.